their experience on mainstreaming knowledge and local wisdom. To those who are the member of the usual regular attendance of Istidamah, you would see and notice that we have international audience as well. So we hope we can follow the discussions and later on ask questions accordingly. Yeah. This topic is chosen because we know that for two reasons. One, from SDG perspective, no one left behind. The Aborigines, the indigenous people are the one that has a high priority to be consulted and to be celebrated, their culture and indigenous knowledge. Two, from the Islamic perspective, we believe in concept of rahmatan lil alamin, that the religion of Islam is for everyone. For these two reasons, now we will be talking about this, discussing about this topic, that we hope we can further foster collaborations among us and get some more ideas and experience of others. How do we get the indigenous people, their education system, their cultural tradition, etc., to be more celebrated and to be in the mainstream? Yeah. So with that remarks, I would like to invite Prof Charles Hopkins, who is quite regular to Malaysia, and in fact has been to the place that where the signing ceremony is for, into Kuala Lumpur. It's been, I think it was 2 years back, Charles, if I'm not mistaken, exploring the same thing. So what Charles will be sharing with us is that the bigger picture of how this indigenous education perspective, and putting it in the context of us as universities, and also from education perspective of the National Teaching Training Institute. So with that, Charles, the world is yours virtually.
Great. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this seminar. I really appreciate it. And what I'd like to do is to sort of put my remarks into two main categories. The first aspect is that quite often when we're talking about education and indigenous, we think of the value of traditional ecological knowledge, or getting the information and the wisdom from indigenous people. The other aspect is how we can improve the education of indigenous youth. So there are two separate aspects, right? And I think this teaming up between the RCE and the teacher education institution is training people to live and work with and teach indigenous youth. This is very unique, and globally speaking. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate these two separate sort of concepts. But can you really have a quality education for indigenous youth if you do not integrate and address their traditional ecological knowledge? So I will sort of go back and forth between the two. So it's interesting with the concept of sustainable development. We sort of pat ourselves on the back and think we came up with it, but really it is a concept that is rooted in indigenous wisdom and knowledge in all aspects of the world. I think in our own setting here in Canada, in the region I'm in, there is the traditional treaty between all the indigenous tribes that were here, called the One Dish with One Spoon. One dish with one spoon. And the concept was that they would all share the hunting grounds, and they would make sure that they left the dish clean. They would only take what they needed, and so on. And it's sort of the beginning. So the Brundtland Commission of Sustainable Development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the future. I love the definition of sustainable development from this indigenous person in Africa, an indigenous elder, of enough for all, forever. Enough. And the idea of for all and for all not being limited to humans, and the idea of intergenerational with the forever. We try to shift it in the North to well-being for all forever, because enough can bring up ideas of stuff and so on. Now, the whole idea of sustainability and the indigenous peoples are referenced, I believe, 6 times in in Agenda 2030. But in particular in education in SDG 4, we talk about a target 4.5 that particularly mentions the indigenous people in the context of how to of working with them. And then in particular, again, in goal 4.7, we talk about education for sustainable development, we talk about human rights, and we talk about global citizenship, the inclusion of everyone. So it is certainly there. But what I think we need to do is to think about in education systems, how do we address not only trying to teach the indigenous people math and language, but it is about our relationship of teaching and learning that goes both ways. The insight and the way of knowledge of traditional people is something we desperately need, because we see that the fruit of our education systems are largely focused and delivering unsustainable development. And it is a matter of a century old. Whereas we look at the wisdom of indigenous people, not that we're going to go back and live in that way, but what are the fundamental concepts? And so I want to stress the idea of learning with indigenous people, learning from indigenous people. Yes, learning for a sustainable future, right? And learning about, so that we can, our relationships with one another is built on respect and mutual understanding and collaboration. So if we look at the current situation, though, of indigenous people, it is not good. We are not servicing indigenous people well in so many aspects of life. And in particular, we look at how our traditional Western, Northern, any school system, how it is relating to indigenous youth, and it is usually not very well. Okay? So that is the kind of thing that we need to do. I want to share with you some research that we have done in collaboration, I believe, with 8 different institutions there in Malaysia. And when I went to this teacher education institutions, I was so very impressed. What we did was that we worked in different regions of the world, trying to first of all come up with what are the aspects of a quality education as seen through the eyes of the indigenous people and the stakeholders themselves. What is quality education in the eyes of the elders, the parents, the students, the teachers who are there, and the various community stakeholders? Then the second thing that we wanted to do, and are just finished, is collecting examples of good practice and then trying to figure out why they worked, and then seeing, are they replicable? And then from those good practices and why they worked, to draw on policy statements. So we worked in the various regions of the world to get this, for the advice from the principals, the teachers, the parents. You can see the stakeholders. And then we used the UNESCO, at that time, the Dolores model of organizing then what things should they know, What things should they be able to do? How living together with others, right? And how can they aspire to be all they want to be? The four of the Dolores. And then we took the Dolores-based model, right? And then we worked through the UNESCO, their guidelines on stakeholders of dialogues with Indigenous people. And we categorized these according to the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Now, in doing so, there were three big ones that jump out. If you look at the different colors are from the different stakeholder groups. But the first category that was so important was in the rights to quality education, right? That very first one. And we wanted to do it in the eyes of the stakeholders, their vision of quality. And you can see that this was extremely important to them. Now, the good news from all that is that what we learned from them was that what we largely think of as a quality education will also serve them, their ability to maintain their identity in both worlds. They want it, but it needs to be in a context that is delivered that makes sense to them, so that it is transferable. The second thing that they really focused on is that they wanted to preserve their cultural heritage, right? They wanted their traditional knowledge and so on, but to be embedded within their schooling. And that was sort of that second grouping of cultural heritage and knowledge, was learning of their past. But the third one, the development with culture and identity, yes, they know they need to develop. It is their way of looking to the future. It was so important. So if we were to sum up some of the key findings that we came up with, and this is, I'm speaking globally, was that the teaching of 21st century competencies is fine. They need that, yes, but they also need to include the teachings of the elders and the local community. The students need various aspects and so on, so they will freely be able to move back and forth. They do need the technical and the vocational, because let's face it, they do need employability. And so the work that's going on in Gombeck and so on, of making sure that they do have those early skills, but then how can they transcribe them? We do need to address teacher certification. Around the world, there was such a small percentage of teachers who had any real relationship with the students they were teaching, the inability to speak the language and so on. So the idea of appropriate monitoring and reporting, what doesn't get reported often doesn't get funded. And so the idea of how we are doing with the Indigenous. And the last thing I want to say in my last 3 minutes, I've been trying to be very, very close. Stories matter. And I want to tell this story. I visited a school for Indigenous youth in Taiwan. And as I walked in through the gate, on the left-hand side, there was this big toad you could see sitting up on the stool. And on the right-hand side was a blackbird. So I asked the principal, I said, what is the story of the bird and the toad? And he said, I've got a little girl who speaks some English, and she's in grade 4. She'll take you out and explain it. And this little girl talked to me about their story of their tribe, that in the beginning, when man came to earth, the animals felt very sorry for humans, that they had so little. They couldn't run fast, they had no defense and so on. And they thought that they should give them a gift. And so the frog said, I will give the gift of fire, and went to the volcano and put a small bed of lava on the back, and it blistered the back of the toad, and it burnt the skin. And when he came back, and it dried it out, but he came and he gave the gift to humans. And I said, what about the black bird? And she said, well, the birds felt very, very sorry, and they did the same. The most beautiful bird flew to the volcano and picked up some of the lava in his beak, and it burnt his feathers all black, and so, but it came as a gift to humans. So I mentioned, I said, it's a nice story. She said, it's not a story. It's more than a story. And she said, I said, well, what does it teach? She said, it is about the animals. They take care of us, but we don't take care of the animals. We need to always remember that if we didn't have the animals and the nature, we wouldn't be here at all. So many of these traditional stories are so deep on so many levels. This little girl explaining a basic principle, and it's a kind of a principle that I think, when I say we need to learn from Indigenous people, these are things, are stories that we need. So I'll stop with that, and but I do want to stay and listen in and be part of the rest of the ceremonies. So thank you again so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you very much for a very powerful story that you leave us with. A very strong reminder that we've been taking care, I mean, the animal, even the environments are taking care of us, but we are not taking care of that. So with that, if we may move on to what Charles has been saying, the why and the global agenda. So the next speaker will be sharing with us the experience of how are we going to do this. Dr. Bahiyah is from teacher training Temenggung Ibrahim. She will be sharing with us the experience of on forest-friendly pedagogy for indigenous children. So please, you have the floor, Dr. Bahiyah. Can you unmute yourself?
Thank you. Can I have the host to open my slide?
Go on now.
Yeah.
If you're ready. Dr. Bahiyah figuring out the technical things to be sorted out there. To those who are not that familiar with Malay language, rimba is the term for forest, and it's quite well known now that people start talking about more and more on this rimbagogy to somehow reflect that how we put up education for the indigenous people with their natural setting, as to how Charles was suggesting that we need this kind of environment to be preserved and conserved. Dr. Bahiyah, can you share with us now, or you still need a bit more time for that? All right, can we, I mean, in interest of time, can we move on to Dr. Affendi? If Dr. Affendi is okay to start? Are you okay, Dr. Affendi? Okay, yeah. All right.
Let me get my slide on.
Yes, so I'll be doing a bit of introduction. So Dr. Affendi has been working on Malay medical manuscript trying to extract out a lot of wisdoms and local practice, especially from health perspective. And he got a book on this, he got a product that come up from this. So we really look forward for these sharings of these issues from what he's been doing so far. So I guess, Dr. Affendi, you can have the floor now.
Okay, for some reason, the larger screen is, I can't see the larger screen. Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. But it would best if you can click on the slideshow on the a bit down to the right.
Down to the right, okay.
The volume, okay, next to the volume, to left to the volume part.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's
Yeah?
perfect. Good.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah, hamdan wa syukran lillah, salatan wa salaman ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Thank you for inviting me to speak here. I'm representing the group actually, the group that we call Malay Medical Manuscripts flagship project, which is based in Kuantan campus of the International Islamic University, Malaysia. So this is a very challenging project because there are a lot of stigma surrounding Malay medicine, and we have to do a lot of convincing when we start this project. There's a lot of resistance as well from the larger scientific as well as the non-scientific people. Now, before I start, I think I should introduce to you what exactly I mean by Malay medical manuscripts. So when we talk about manuscripts, these refer to written documents. So they have to be handwriting documents, at least 50 years of age. And when we talk about Malay medical manuscripts, they are not like some people may think that Malay medicine is mainly non-scientific stuff. There's a lot of hocus pocus, mantra, sihir, kind of things. Yeah, but we have checked and we travel around the region for the past 10 years, and we are convinced that those assumptions are not entirely true. Yeah, because there's a lot of things being covered in the Malay medical corpus. Firstly, medicinal materials, and then the formulations, how the Malay people formulate matters, formulate the medicinal materials, and also they write about the mode of treatment. Yeah, I'll show you some of the examples, and we can see how they are very specific and very careful about using the materials. We have discovered or identified more than 300 extant volumes in many countries with major concentration in Malaysia. And we believe that by doing research on this particular area, we run a good opportunity for creating a few new therapeutics and also creating a new national pride. So I'll show you what I mean when I say that the content of the Malay medical manuscript is not just mantra or incantations. Okay, so this is a small text called Tita Ramon MS 15394, and it is a very interesting text because it is one of the example where one volume talk about a particular disease. Most of the manuscripts, they are a general medical reference book for that time. Yeah, but this particular text is focusing on the treatment of the eyes. So you can read. They use for they describe the disease first, mata kabur, and then they tell us about the material, the limau kerbau, and how to formulate. So we have to process the material, kupas kulit, belah tiga, and put other materials like garam, the salt, and then we have to cook. And there is an overnight preparation. We cannot use it fresh. And then we then give it to the eyes. Yeah? And here they mention that even if the eye have some slapot, some like a cataract perhaps, so we can also use this this formulation, yeah, and so on and so forth. So this is Kitab Ramon Ubat, and then we have Kitab Perubatan Malim Umar bin Harun. This is also a very interesting manuscript. Is 300 plus pages, written in very neat Jawi, and it's only palm size, it's pocket size. And the reason why it is pocket size because the Tabib Malim Umar bin Harun, who hails from Borneo, yeah, interesting because he's from Borneo as well. He was a traveler, a trader, and also a healing medicine man. And because he need to travel, then he need something which is small that he can carry easily. And he wrote down, he documented the type of treatment he gave to people. And because he was active in the early 1900s, he also was the one who administered vaccines for smallpox. Yeah, very interesting. And here is another text. I took a snippet to show how the Malay people, they have their own terminologies for certain diseases, like here kulit ayam or badam, and they know it is a very bad, terrible disease, and they then describe how it first occur. So it comes out like a panau, well circumscribed panau, but inside there has the appearance of chicken skin that has been taken, that the feathers has been taken off. Yeah, so and another formulation for the same problem, many people think that Malay medicine is only about don't have much about preventive medicine, but in many instances we see this kind of thing where they provide a prescription for treating a disease, and then they also provide a prescription for making sure that the disease is truly effective. You can see I've color coded it. So the first part is for the treatment, and then for the adjunct treatment, so called, and then the last part in green and blue is the preventive, so to ensure that the disease does not recur. So this is what we see in the Malay medical manuscripts, and we don't have this knowledge anymore in our society actually, and this is why we need to relearn and data mine our manuscripts. What else is there? So we have anatomy. It's not that many, but there are, and other things. Yeah. So our major challenge when we do this project is about answering the question whether this research is still relevant or not. Like Prof Charles mentioned just now that a lot of people, they understand the need to conserve their tradition, etc. But the concern of these people is in how to contextualize, how to use it, how to make it useful in day-to-day life in modern society. And another question is about how to engage with these people. Yeah, the convincing part. So with regard to Malay medical manuscript and medical traditional medicine at large, yeah. So I always bring out this example. Yeah, this is Yu, Chinese pharmacist who won the 2015 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, and she was awarded this Nobel Prize because of her work using a formulation that she took out from Chinese ancient medical manuscripts. Chinese ancient medical manuscript that was written 1500 years ago, 1500 tahun yang lepas. And from that formulation, she then formulated or discovered artemisinin that we use today for treating malaria. And this is the impact of artemisinin-based therapy. It has been able to reduce mortality from malaria by more than 20% overall, and by more than 30% in children. 100,000 lives are saved each year in Africa alone, and overall global death toll from malaria declined by 50% during the last 15 years. And it's a very impactful finding. Okay, and this has then stimulated WHO to to prepare a blueprint called Integrative Medicine Policy in 2012, where they suggested that we need to relearn traditional medicine and see how we can integrate it with modern medicine. I'd like to give some more examples, yeah, from Europe. This is a group called Ancient Biotics in the University of Nottingham. They are doing work related to Anglo-Saxon medical text, yeah, and they use a formulation from this text to find cures or antibiotics for the MRSA superbug. And they have published in PLOS One as well as in Nature Scientific Reports. This is the latest one from this group, published in October 2020. Yeah, so a study using medical manuscript can be published in good journals. This is another group from the UK as well, who studied this text, medieval Welsh medical text. Yeah, it was published by my alma mater, University of Wales, in 2020. But they have started the study early on. So they look into antimicrobial as well. So I think we can do the kind of things that are currently happening in the world. Yeah, so like Charles said, there's a contextualization that we need to do, and also engagement with people. So in my line of work, this means that we need to engage with the scientific community as well as the non-scientific community with regards to the interpretation and scientific validation, relearning how to read and how to interpret the data in the medical manuscript. It's not easy because it's a specialized field and it is basically dying, and we really have to work very hard to make a lot of effort to understand. And the text is we need to democratize the knowledge in the text. Okay. So we have been doing with regard to the academic and research, incorporating scientific studies included in more than 40 research projects within the last 2 years. We are being supported by several research grants, especially by the university. We are very thankful of that, and we have been able to have one MOA with a local museum, and we are exploring more MOAs in the future with more institutions. We have since 2015 been able to hold a conference called International Conference on Malay Medical Manuscripts. So although it is a very niche area, we don't go for quantity, but we go for quality. I think now we have a surer footing. We want to elevate this niche area, the profile of this area, targeting especially the scientific community as well as the students. This is in preparation for the future. Yeah, we have published 9 books so far with regards to this theme, and we acknowledge that although many of these books are academic in nature, but one particular book that we published last year is intended for the public consumption, the Sudah Gaharu Cendana Pula. Yeah? So this is taking a different strategy. We try to engage the public by using materials that they are used to, pantones and hikayat, etc. I think indirectly we are also reintroducing Malay literatures. We are giving the teachers more materials to work on, and also interpreting some commonly used proverbs. Yeah, like Sudah Gaharu Cendana Pula. How does the proverb come about? How does children's stories, children nursery rhymes like Lagu Secikuh Udang Gamit, what's the story behind it? So we give all this our own interpretation in this book. It is alhamdulillah well accepted by the public. We have also run a few community projects at our faculty. For example, here we established 2 gardens, the My Ulam Garden and the My Gaharu Garden. These are using the emphasis is on using local, nutritious and medicinal plants, because we see one of the threat of the modern society is in the reduction of the numbers of edible plants. If you, I mean, when we ask the people what kind of things they can think of to eat, yeah, so it has been reduced very much. Whereas if we go to the text, the manuscript, etc., ulam, for example, we have 120 ulams, but how many of us can name all 120 of these ulams, and how many of us actually eat? When we talk about vegetable, it's always carrot, tomatoes, all these westernized kind of things. Even in hospitals, when we give hospital food, they are more or less tailored to Western diet rather than our own diet. Yeah, so we want to reintroduce through this kind of projects to the society. And very recently, in relation to the Movement Control Order number 2 in Malaysia, we have this project called Gotong Royong Perdana Menemukan Manuskrip Perbuatan Melayu. Like I said, this is one of the ways to engage with people, a wider, broader segment of the society, not just academicians. But through this project, we open it up in such a way that we get volunteers from 4 countries in Asian region, and we get people from professionals, medical doctors, dentists, students, as well as housewives taking part, yeah, in this project. So it involves a 340-page manuscript. We hope to help people to keep on having a positive attitude, and we hope to be able to publish this text by the year end. I think that's all. Yeah, I think my time is already up. If you have, if you want to ask more, you can send me an email, or you can follow me on my Facebook account, Kalam Ubatan. Wassallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Thank you so much, Dr. Affendi. That's really amazing to share all those stories that we feel like we should go for all these medicine instead of the hospital prescriptions.
No, our stand is integrative medicine. What is good from modern medicine, take it. What is good from traditional medicine, we also should consider it.
We wish that there would be COVID solutions to that.
Yeah,
all right. Let's go to the next one. We hope that Dr. Bahiyah from the Teacher Training Institute is ready this time round to share with us on
yes, okay. All right, I think I'm very sorry for the technical error just now. Okay, all right. Can I start now?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to this.
Dr. Bahiyah, if you don't mind to put your videos on, or will that disturb your?
All right. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. No. Okay. All right. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very pleasant morning to all distinguished guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very delighted today to participate in discussion of indigenous knowledge and local wisdom. I'm Bahiyah from Institute of Teacher Education Malaysia, Temenggong Ibrahim campus. So let me bring all of you to the field of indigenous education, which I call as Rimbagogy, the forest-friendly pedagogy for Malaysia indigenous children. Rimbagogy is actually derived from the words rimba, which are forests, and pedagogy. Pedagogy is known as the science and art of teaching in school. So Rimbagogy exploration began with 3 main questions, which are why forest school, what is forest school, and how to implement forest school. So why forest school? Originally, the idea behind forest school started from an amazing woman, Prof Datin Dr. Marati Muhammad, who I call as Ant Lady. So this is not Ant Man, but Ant Lady. She's a biologist and had done many research regarding insects. So one day, she and her team went to Kampung Sayung Pinang, which is one of the Orang Asli settlements in Kulai Johor. So what had captured their attention was the participation of the indigenous kids in their research. So the kids showed high level of curiosity and they eagerly want to take part in this. The curiosity at that moment, the rate of dropout. It quite near the house. So this dropout had caught the attention of my Aunt Lady, and she asked me to explore this issue and find the best approach to help these children. Exploration of forest school began, and I named my journey as From Bristol to Sayung Pinang. So why? For me, why we lead to what, right? And what is forest school? Forest school is not a school. Right? We need to accept that forest school is not a school, it's not a program, it's not a place. It is an ethos and a learning process that offer the opportunity for holistic growth to regular session. So well, in the year of 2030, forest school from United Kingdom founder Sarah Blackwell had taken her initiative to go to Malaysia, right, to join us at UTHM in introducing the concept of forest school to researcher and the Orang Asli community around Johor. So after multiple research and training, I come up with Malaysia Forest School element, and this led to the initiative to nurture this element to Orang Asli school in Malaysia. So this is not an easy effort, I admit, but it is a very nice and memorable journey. So for someone who has a little patience and such a big initiative such as me, I can only give so much according to my ability. It's not easy to implement forest school into Malaysia curriculum. So this has opened my eyes to facilitate and make it easy for forest school for indigenous teacher, for teacher in indigenous school to by introducing Rimbagogi. So I think forest school is quite big for them to accept. So I make it simple and introduce them with something that very close to their heart, which is known as Rimbagogi. So a form of pedagogy that's combined the element of nature, ethnicity, the Orang Asli, and the forest. So with this teaching, I just let them know when you are doing your teaching and learning, let forest do the talking. Okay, so Rimbagogi is integration of pedagogy and forest element, and it allows the pedagogy to blend and integrate forest element with indigenous traditional knowledge. The Rimbagogi will offer the opportunities for these indigenous children to gain experience and knowledge through activities that carry out directly with forest and nature, and it seemed to be synonym with the living style of the indigenous children who adopt a rugged lifestyle and always move for survival. So for the time constraint now, I will summarize the idea behind Rimbagogi for today into 5 pillars, so known as RIMBA: RIS, Indigenous Community; M, Malaysia Curriculum; B, Benefit; and A is Approach. All right, so the first one, let's start with risk. Okay, risk is one form of threat to Rimbagogi. Okay, this is because the probability of an accident to happen is very, very high. So the teacher perception will always predict the bad thing first that might happen to their students. So therefore, this teacher from the indigenous school, they will start to think about the learning needs of a student in terms of physical risk and emotional risk, and this lead to make them feel afraid to implement Rimbagogi. Ironically, this risk actually create opportunities. Okay, by handling risk, practitioner will be given opportunities to undergo courses related to risk management, so they can adapt themselves in their surrounding, and they will also tend to be creative in solving unexpected problem encountered. In addition, by handling risk, they will also gain surviving skill. Since they will be dealing with risk, this practitioner, I name it as practitioner because it can be the indigenous school teacher, and it also can be for any educators from NGOs or volunteer that might want to helping the children for them to in their study, right? So for this practitioner, they will undergo risk management, include 3 steps. Okay, they need to know what is risk planning, risk control, and risk evaluation. So as you know, when you fail to plan, when you fail to plan, you are planning to fail, right? For me, this is more the risk management is the core for the implementation of Pedagogy. All right, next. The second one, all right, the second pillar, Indigenous Community. The quality of risk management really needs the involvement and cooperation from Indigenous communities. Other than that, the community involvement will play an important role to drive Pedagogy. The suitability of Pedagogy implementation is due to the fact that Indigenous people has the luxury to access the forest anytime they want. This is a very unique criteria that make me fall into implement Pedagogy with the indigenous people. So therefore, to expand Pedagogy in Malaysia, I have taken 3 initiatives, namely I have taken 3 initiatives. Okay, for the first one, I need to find inspiring people, right? Because they will motivate me more. Because this is not an easy task for me, all right? Finding inspiring people who have brought me to know many great people like my boss, the Rector of Ab.Rahman Teacher Training Center, Tuan Haji Muhammad Zain Badui, and I also able to meet Prof Julie Edo, right? And my team, I consider as my team from Pusat Kecemerlangan Pedagogi Kebangsaan, IPG Tengku Ampuan Afzan, a very nice person, Datuk Isa Hamid, Senator Datuk Isa Hamid, and my idola, my idol, Prof Mahketab. So by meeting these great people, I've been able to expand my collaboration by conducting several research and educational programs with specific agency. Although I said before, for school is an ethos, it's not a program, but to ensure that the teachers can implement it wisely, so I need to develop educational programs with them. So I also, together with Center of Facility and Management team from UTHM, we are involved in research of Kampung Orang Asli Lestari, right? Sustainability Indigenous Village, and along with UTM member, University Technology Malaysia, we able to manage and research on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM at Orang Asli, and is also considered as a community service program. And I also be given an opportunity to involve with Malaysian Ministry of Education for hashtag 57 education transformation for indigenous education. And most recently, I am able to join nice and good-hearted people from Sahabat Jariah Malaysia to achieve jungle class for these indigenous children. Okay, next, the third one is Malaysia curriculum. So the unique of Pedagogy is when it gives new life to learning strategies that related to outdoor learning. So this Pedagogy offer outdoor learning by using forest-friendly approach that tailored to the national curriculum. The opportunity for the Orang Asli children to go to the school depend on the facility provided by the government. However, you need to notice something. Some of them do not have to forego the opportunity to go to school because of their lifestyle that is nomadic and they live far inland. So for those who have already participated in formal education, so Rimbagogi recommended to be applied in the teaching and learning. So the teachers need to be in part of it. So these orang asli children will receive the appropriate approach to their needs and interests, right dose to right person. So for children who live far inland, all right, Rimbagogi will open up the opportunities for this educator, the practitioner. It can be a teacher, it can be the volunteer, all right, to make sure that the forest will act as their classroom and learning laboratory. One example that I can share is with the involvement of Sahabat Jariah in developing jungle class in Kampung Cangkuk settlement for Batik people. So this team, for me, this Sahabat Jariah team, all right, they need the cost to set up the forest school class is too expensive. Right, this team has never done that to enable the children can receive education. By the addition of Rimbagogi, will not only able to lighten up the activity of jungle class when then
Dr. Bahiyah, if you can hear me, maybe an options of switching off the video can help us to get clearer. Oh, it's very unfortunate that. Yeah, we cut. Yeah. All right. Nothing much can be said. I think this is what happened.
Hello.
Maybe
okay, sorry.
You can, Doctor. Maybe you can switch off your video.
Okay,
so that
I'm very sorry.
All right, go on then. Go on.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go
okay,
on.
The part one. Okay, the part one is the benefit, all right? So in the class, the children will gain knowledge to pass the exam, all right? But for Rimbagogi, it will provide the greater benefit to the children physically and mentally. So Rimbagogi will facilitate more knowledge gathering that help the children to develop emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So what they can gain from the Rimbagogi is first one, they can increase Rimbagogi able to increase the empathy for the empathy for the environment. So the second one, the people or the children also can increase the self-esteem, social skill, and be more independent. And they are able to learn to plan, imagine, and organize. And most important things here is they able to they learn by expression. The last pillars for today. All right, the last approach, the last one, the last pillar, the fifth one is the approach. So the national curriculum philosophy has outlined the development needs of the student in terms of JERIs. Therefore, several programs such as STEM, 21st century learning, the aspiration of the Ministry of Education. So these indigenous people rigorous and ever-moving lifestyle of the survival appear to be more synonym with the implementation of Rimbagogi. So the interaction between the education and the environment able to enhance their competency. And I conclude here, there are four main elements, all right, in Rimbagogi, namely as approach, consistency, environment, and coaching. All right. So as a conclusion here, what can I share to you, to all of you here? It's not easy. All right. Obviously, it's not as easy as it sounds to implement pedagogy in class, but a good teacher, they need to do the best to their children, right? And this is not really this is not something physical, right? This is something that related to the development of children heart and minds, and this is not that we to and let sure that this will be a very amazing experience teachers that implement. So big effort. Only that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bahiyah. I think the last word that you said that it's not an easy thing, but I think you have proved that everything's impossible until it's done. So you have shared with us the very interesting case of how the curriculum is possible to be out there.
Sorry,
Thank you so much. So if we can move on to Prof Wisb. He's the director of Andaman and Nicobar Tribal Research and Training Institute, Gujarat. Prof Wisb, I hope you are around. Your voice is not that clear.
I haven't spoken yet, but can you see
my video? Someone has voice, right? All right, now it's perfect.
Okay.
All right.
I will attempt to share my screen. But before that, if there's any technical glitch, please bear with it. I'm also quite new in trying to go across the waters and connecting the internet. Anyway, I want to thank you all very much for this.
Prof Wisb, if you don't mind to be sitting at the back a bit so that you can see your full handsome face. Yeah. All right, thank you. That's perfect position.
I just wanted to be in the parda.
Want to be closer to us, yeah?
Thank you very much. I want to thank you all for this opportunity to share my ideas and learn from you. I think it is tremendous experience. Always Malaysia has been a great learning place for me. And I thank all my colleagues who practice and who work with the Orang Asli communities because they have been a great inspiration. My earliest friendship with Malaysia was through Professor Hood. And then, of course, prior to that was reading about Malaysia and his supervisor's work. Anyway, what I want to do quickly is to take you through some of the works which we have tried to do with the our Orang Asli on the Andaman Islands, which are they're classified by the government as PTGs, primitive tribal groups. Now they are called particularly vulnerable, PVTGs group. And there are about 5 of them still left on the cluster of islands. And I'm going to specifically, I'll try to share my screen if I can get to it. Can you see the screen? Is it visible?
You can put in the slideshow.
Yeah. Okay.
The one next to normal view. The button next to normal view. The one on the left. Bottom left. Okay, click on that one. You get the full face of you. All right.
Can you get it now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. These people, one of the groups which I have worked with, apart from the other groups I have worked for last 20-25 years, are now known as Angs. They were earlier known as Jarwas. And Jarwas were part of the Andaman Islands cluster. They reside in the middle part. For those of you who may not be aware of it, we are not very far from your country. Andaman is 1,323 kilometers away from Malaysia. And it's very interesting to see the similarities in between the forest people, and some of the elements within these cultures. For instance, the old earlier Orang Asli notion of hala and the spirits associated with winds, etc. Today, there are 5 groups located in different parts of the island. The government in 1956 had declared them as tribal reserve territories, protecting them there, and restriction of certain movements and certain things coming in and out of those reserve territories. These people, the Ungis or the Jarvas, which is the focus here, they came out of the forest and gave up their hostility as late as about 1988 onwards. The friendly relationship was set up, and a 624 square kilometer reserve forest was kept for them. How the people were pacified is a story of contact expedition. As you see in the picture here, ships used to be sent by the government, and it would carry gifts for them, and the people would interact. And over a long, sustained period of this practice, the relationships changed. Now, my areas of interest and publication with these people has involved how the children have been socialized, some of the symbolic and religious aspects of these people, and trying to understand their worldview. And recently, I have been involved, or rather for last decade, I've been involved with the administration trying to advise them on certain policies dealing with the particularly vulnerable tribal groups in various parts of this island. Given this interest and this general background, this 520 odd people now identified as Jarvas or Angs as they call themselves pose a problem for us, and particularly in the theme which is being discussed here is going back to the earlier writings of Durkheim. Durkheim says that education is a way in which the society installs its own image in the child's mind, or through the process of education. Now, what happens, actually some of the previous speakers have already alluded to this idea. What happens to the children who grow up in the forest? How do they get an idea of the forest? I think my previous speaker has dwelled on this very well. But my concern was that these people, even today, don't generally have any numerical idea or capacity to count in our sense beyond the digit 3. So they can only count 3, and fingers are only 3. The little finger and the thumb is not counted as a finger. Given this kind of thing, and they have just recently come out, recently means for last 15 odd years, they've come out and they're interacting with the outside world much more frequently. They need to know certain language. They need to know certain amount of numeracy. They cannot be constantly kept in a protected area. They will have to be given the right to at least interact with dignity and certain kind of right to decide for themselves, self-determination, so to say. Now, given these ideas, we needed to create a educational program and a way in which it could be done. And the 2 major principles we selected was bicultural and bilingual. What was meant by bicultural was that over a period of time, with the increased neighborhood around them, people who are settlers or villagers who are not hunter-gatherers, they would have to survive in that stream of what nation, idea of nation is. They will have to survive understanding the language as well as expressing their own language. So their language has to be preserved as the first priority. They also have to learn the language of the outside world, and they have to not give up their own culture, because with that culture is their own identity. Given these issues, how do we create a bicultural and a bilingual curriculum and a program? Now, schools generally have meant that you teach them some curriculum. In fact, in the villages of Andaman Islands, they have textbook which says electrical pumps. There are images of pump for the letter P. And pump is not something which everybody sees in the village. There are a lot of villages which may not have electricity, or they have pineapple. It's a totally alien concept to a village kid. Now, if that same textbook is brought to the tribal communities, as they have done in some of the parts of the island, not with the Jarvas, it's not something they relate with. So the Jarvas themselves, the parents said that we want an education system which gives them some way to connect to our own forest, not forget that, but also connect to your world. So it's a bridge in between the 2 worlds, with the elders said. And we discussed with them and recorded this to convince the administration that we need to create a different kind of school. and education has to consider these issues rather than just bringing the textbook by the government itself. So the hunting knowledge is a knowledge which the grandfather wants the grandchildren to know, but the father of the child also wants child to have the competency to operate in the world outside, to have a role in which he can play and secure a certain kind of economic situation for himself. Now, this was the kind of worldview which the parents had for the future of their children and how it could be sustained. Now, where they exist, given most of the hunting gathering culture, what you see on the screen is a kind of representation of the annual cycle or the seasonal cycle of the Jarwa kids or the Jarwa's family itself. Depending on the resources and the season, they move in between the coastal and the forest area. So there are two major resources, and each season has a specific kind of resource which dominates in its availability. And along with that, there are related technologies and stories. For instance, in the honey season, they will have to carve the honey containers. They will have to identify the trees in the forest, which have started with the the honeycombs getting formulated. Similarly, in the season of pig hunting, they have to formulate and understand when the jackfruit is ripe, where are the jackfruit clusters, which are the basic source for the pigs to feed on. So in this sense, there's a kind of botany and zoology which is connected to the forest. So this is what the grandfather wants the son to know about, or his grandson to know about it. So the school cannot be fixed in one location. The people move, they move from coastal area to the forest area. So the school also has to move. So this was, of course, a very difficult task to convince the administration that we need to create small buildings or small structures where school will be held, but not in one place, and because the municipality and the government has this idea, there's a school and we give resources. But I had to say that, there are 4 schools for 3 different clusters in 3 different locations. So here are some of those examples, because the community moves, the school also moves. So the teachers also have to move. And that's one way in which the school should not be infringement on a kind of rhythm of the society and the cultural, way of trying to see it. This idea that 9 to 5 is a school time is not something they can relate to. It's a very industrial cultural construct. So they have this idea that, oh, today we will go to school. Today I will not go to school. Today I'm going to go with my grandfather to fish. And you cannot restrict that. And that would be denying their own rights, to sustain their own lifestyle. So we created a school which was located in different locations, and according to the season and where the group was, the school would become active. So the school moves. The school also translocates along with the community. Coming to school became a big adventure, to get a jeep ride to go through the forest and come to the road and come to the school. And soon it became an idea that, we have to wash, we should clean up. That was part of the school's idea of trying to create a sense of hygiene and health, that, it's good to get dressed up and get ready for going to school. A sense of discipline, a kind of imposition of the industrial society on a hunter-gatherer. Now, of course, things have changed. Where we started in 2014, it has been a couple of years now. We have had some success, but some of the students also insist now that, since I'm brushing my teeth, I want parents also to brush. So the school had to give dental care kits, so to say, a toothbrush and a tongue cleaner for all the students to take it back to their parents also, for them also. So it has worked not only for educating children, but also through children inspire the parents to participate in a particular kind of thing. So now, of course, they all get dressed up. We have given them uniforms, so they really think that it's a very important thing to get dressed up for going to the school. And they always now say, in quotation, I'm going to my school in Hele to learn about my forest. They don't say that I'm going there to get education. I'm going there to learn about my school, to Enehele school, to learn about my forest, because my grandfather is going to today talk about doing certain things in the forest. And we have a whole curriculum based on it. I'll try to share with you the textbook. I've put images here if we have time. But those books which we have created for them, which are bilingual, which means the script is a Hindustani script, so that they can come out of the forest also when they want to come out. And someday in future, they can read what the government has put out or what the other society reads, so that they are not cheated. They can read. But it's also in their language. So the script is mainland Indian script, but the content of it is in Hindi as well as in their own Ankatha or own language. The book is illustrated by the children, so there's a great interest in seeing that book. Means it's like saying, "Oh, this is my elder brother's drawing," and there's a sense of participation. Visuality for them is very important because the school became a major part of their life, apart from with a difference, with a caution that it doesn't interfere with the seasonal activity. The elders also started accompanying to the school. For them also, it became an adult education situation because through school, they were coming to learn about the outside world. We had a whole module. In fact, I showed them some of the images of Orang Asli communities, historical and contemporary, to tell them that in the world, there are other communities also, who have a relationship with the forest like you have. There are people who have resisted the destruction of the forest, which you should also be perhaps concerned about. So it's a way to teach them about the outside world also, not to install in them that they're very unique and primitive or particularly vulnerable tribal group as the government would like to. So the parents come, the mothers come there. It also is a way in which they chit chat and talk about the community's concerns. So it becomes a community center kind of thing, the school. We have teachers who are part of the tribal welfare organization who take turns in teaching. Of course, this is a big problem because most of them don't want to learn their own language and do not want to make effort. In fact, I have a very interesting story about this. One of this teacher or one of the worker who works for the welfare agency also works as a teacher. His daughter, who was about 16 years old, told me that this is terrible that you have started a school for these kids. So I said, why? She says, it's terrible because if they can all read and write, who will look after the forest? What will my father's job be? He's involved in this welfare for this tribal group. So there's a sense of seeing education in a particular way, and that education's perception also has to be changed in the wider society. And that is something which we struggle every day with. The kids are very fond of drawing, the sense of visuality, giving them chalks and slates and paper now. It's a tremendous thing because they tell stories to each other by drawing it out. So we have started, this idea was referred, I think, in the beginning by Charles also, about stories, So these people also tell stories, and we have used that as a method of teaching and learning, along with the standard Montessori practice of play and learn. We have incorporated this idea of telling stories. So they create plays, and the teachers are told to let them play with it, play with the idea, create a dance drama out of it. Their sense of music, of course, is very limited, but they have created, and I'll show you if I get the time, a small clip of what they have done. This visuality is brought into the classroom, and therefore there's a great interest in them trying to see the thing. I also take visual images from my films from the world and share it with them on the screen itself of the computer. So multimedia has become an important way for them to record what they want to say and then share it with the scattered community. Means everybody is not in the same part of the forest. So the school has also become a way to integrate not only generations of grandfather with the grandson, but also community living few miles away from the community, the neighbors. So they share through school, what is happening in the forest, which is adjacent to them. Their forest already has certain fruits. Our forest doesn't have the fruits. What happened? Oh, something has changed in the environment itself. So they start talking about each other. Through that, we are also trying to record how they think about the environment and the changes in their situation and the life around them. I said earlier, there's a whole play and learn method. So we have incorporated the traditional games and plays. Here you can perhaps see there's a little fig, which is all the children in the season when the figs are ripe, they draw a stick under it and they use it as a top. It's called tiki tiki. And they have this competition, whose tiki tiki falls earlier, after spinning. So we're trying to keep this idea that toys which are made by them should not be forgotten. There's a sense of game through which we learn a great deal about them. And the kids also learn that I am somebody who has a very unique thing and I should save it. I should not forget it. So this is perhaps this whole idea of tangible and intangible heritage. It's playing with that idea and trying to focus on it among the Jarwa kids. What you see in the bottom here is a bucket which is made for the honey season to collect bucket, to keep the bucket. Berries which I use to make personal ornaments, which the kids also are now learning. We have tried to incorporate this as a craft exercise so the kids can make it. We are now trying to create small bookmarks, made on the palm leaf, where the children draw the things, and we laminate it in the nearby city and try to market it. Perhaps that's one of the things which we are trying to focus. So that the money earned from that goes back to the school to buy stationery and other equipment for them to interact with. So it becomes a self-financed kind of experimental program. The education in that sense has played a very different role for these people. And it is something they look forward to it. Here I'll share with you some of the books we created. How do we, the first thing we had to do was to create a Varnamala, or rather identify their phonetics and their vowels and consonants, and see the equivalent image of that sound, and create a kind of Varnamala, or the ABCD in their language. And then depending on each season has different techniques and technology and knowledge which is invoked. We created the textbook. So what you see here on the side is the textbook based on the pig hunting season. So the parents and the children move the camp to the place where the pig hunting is possible. The school also goes there, and the text chapter is related, or the textbook they will read at that time will be related to pig hunting. So the kids can see that something has to be learned, which my grandfather is talking about, how to make the bows and arrows for hunting, how to carve the buckets in which the honey would be kept. So it becomes, it's not something that biology class is held only during the biology period, but it's a biology of that season which is taught. The mythology dealing with the honey bee or birds pertaining to particular event are seasonal birds which are coming there. Those are part of that textbook. So they get ornithology, botany related to that particular time. And it's real. It's not something just confined to the book, but the book in the classroom is telling about the environment which is also changing. So if environment changes, the students' concerns also change. And that's what was reflected. I'll try to show you a small clip if I can. I think it will probably not work. I'll show you the clip. I'll get out of this presentation and turn it on.
Prof, sorry to interrupt. If you don't mind to somehow, in the interest of time, if you can expedite a bit.
This is the last thing. I'm not going to show anything further. We have now through the school created what we call as the Ang Sena, who have taken a pride in protecting their forest and their identity through their language. And it has now become, there are various groups of kids who take up the responsibility of trying to track down the poachers, illegal poachers also. These kind of activities which the school has taken up an active role in protecting their rights and their worldview and fighting for their sustainability has also had certain kind of critique. People see that we are trying to create some kind of Maoist, activist, leftist elements within calm, passive forest, which should not be there, so that the forest can easily become converted into red palm oil plantation. We all in Malaysia are aware of it. We are still resisting that thing. Anyway, that's all I had to share. I'm sorry I don't have the time. I had put some clips from the school and its performance of the honey collection and the honeybee dance which they have created. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof Wisb. That is a very exciting story that we can hear. It's good that we have another world perspective, another locations, practice of how we do education with indigenous people. We can always share your video later on once we've done the ceremony. We love to watch the video later.
That's okay.
So if we may go to the next speaker, who is Dr. Norhyisyam from the Teacher Training Institute. So, Kuala Lumpur, yeah. Please, Dr. Hisham, if you can somehow stick to the time as best as possible. And unmute yourself to speak. Dr. Norhyisyam will be speaking on Naturegogy, which I guess is an extension of Forestgogy as well. Please, you have the floor.
Right, thank you very much. I would like to start with a video.
Stick to the time as best as possible. And unmute yourself to speak. Dr. Norhyisyam will be speaking on Naturegogy, which I guess is an extension of Forestgogy as well. Please. Right. This one. Share. Right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I hope that everybody can hear me. Is it okay? Yes.
Okay. All right. Right. A very good and pleasant day to distinguished guests of honor, ladies and gentlemen, and also my fellow friends. Maiga Bor. So this is actually the greetings, a way of greetings by the Semai group, or the Semai tribe, which means how do you do? Bor meaning I'm fine, I'm good. Today I would like to talk about the Naturegogy, which is actually one of the elements that we would like to mention here today. But before that, the video just now, it was about a Sewang dance. It's actually a Sewang contemporary dance. It is meant for welcoming dance actually, and then traditionally it is actually meant for medicine purpose. But for this time around, we changed it to welcoming dance. Yeah. I would like to share with you within this very short limited time that we have at the moment. We would like to share with you what we have done in order to implement and also in order to enhance the Naturegogy element in the national education system, right? These are some of the photos that you can see that this is the overview that I would like to talk about today. First, we look into the PPK or the center itself. We call it the center. And then I'll talk about the Naturegogy or Naturegogy, all right, the concept and also the principle. And then after that, I will be focusing on the four main initiatives, which are the pre-service teachers, and then the in-service teachers, and then the indigenous community. And then I'll talk about the beyond curriculum, what we have done, and also we are doing at the moment currently. And then I will end it with a conclusion and also recommendation. And perhaps if time permits, I would like to share with you another video, just a very short video on the activities done. Right, this is just the a glance of what PPK is, or the center. We call it as the National Center of Pedagogical Excellence for the Indigenous. This is actually in relation with the OA, or the Indigenous Act, or the Orang Asli Act in 1956, whereby a need to have a kind of a center or a kind of an agency to ensure that everybody will not be left behind, especially in terms of the honestly education, whereby we would like to ensure that education is meant for all, and we will just ensure that no one is left behind in education. So this is actually why we are establishing this center, and also this center has been officially launched by the Ministry of Education, as with the Ministry of Education in 2012. Right. To continue with this, the main key personnel or the key players in this center, which is led by the head of center, and then we have the head of units under the four of us, and then we are also guided and also assisted by the IPGM officers, together with the directors and so the deputy directors in this teaching college, and also they become the catalyzer for us to work on upgrading and also developing the educations for the indigenous people. And then at the same time, we also invite and also encourage the involvement or participation from the non-academic staff and also the academic staff in this college, because we would like to have a sense of belonging, that the center is not belong to us only, it is actually belong to the whole citizens of this teaching institute, right? I think I just straight away go to the focus of the PKPPK or the center. The main focus will be the generating knowledge, and then we have this transition and also application of knowledge, and then the other one will be the final one will be the conservation and also preservation of culture. Sorry. All right. I will try to talk about all these things in terms of this what we have done in order to achieve all these aims and also focus. Right. We believe that in order to achieve glory, we should never walk alone. So that is why we have this synergy partners. We have the partners. We have the teams from local universities. We have team from other government agencies, also non-government agencies as well. And also we have field partners in order to help us in making this a reality. Yeah? Right, I think I just focus on the Naturegogy, which is actually the element that we like to propose here. Naturegogy is actually the adaptation of forest school concept, which is mentioned by Dr. Bahiyah just now. But it is a bit different with the one that being used in UK and then in Indonesia, in Brazil as well. All right, because for us, the concept will be bringing the elements of nature, natural environment into the classroom, and at the same time, we are taking the students to the school compound, right? Because we are actually not allowed to bring the students to outside of the classroom because of the safety reasons. Yeah. So the principle would be the principle of Naturegogy element would be we are focusing on contextual learning, and at the same time we also emphasis on indigenous language, culture, and also indigenous language and also cultural preservation. That is why we have activities in order to upgrade and also in order to learn the tribe language so that we will be able to use it in the classroom. All right, and at the same time, we also involve all these communities and the parents and also the indigenous students or children in our activities in order to achieve this Naturegogy. Right. In order to do all these things, we have our own model, which is actually developed by Dr. Jamalludin in his PhD. These are the four main areas. In order to acquire the knowledge, we have to have objective, we have to have the pedagogy, and we have to have the management as well as this dissemination. Meaning to say the expansion of what we have done in order to upgrade the teaching and learning process. Right. We first believe that in order to educate and also to train and also to learn, to make sure that the education among the indigenous group is being invasive, we believe that we need to have the teacher themselves, the community themselves, to teach their community. So that is why we, in relation with the Ministry of Education as well, Ministry of Education program. So we have this special intake program whereby we are having, at the moment, we have a total number of 195 students altogether, and some of them have been posted to school. And these Orang Asli students or these indigenous students, they come from different tribes, okay, and then they are now learning the practical, and they are learning the information, the knowledge, the skill that need to be in order to be a teacher. And then they are posted to only to indigenous schools in all over Malaysia, or all over the Peninsula of Malaysia. So I would like to mention here, even though the minimum intake should have a minimum requirement, but at the same time, some of the students, some of the indigenous students here, they have managed to score a straight A's, 7 A's, 6 A's in secondary school examination or in SPM. So meaning to say they can upgrade themselves, all right, and they know what they need to, they know what they need, and they know what they require, their interests, in order to teach their community later on. So that is why we believe that by having these pre-service teachers, and then we include and we also inculcate the concept on the elements of Naturegogy in pre-education, I mean their education, in order to be passed to the generation later on. And I am very proud to mention here that one of our students, Norhyisyamudin, she's now is actually one of the candidates to have, she's the indigenous students as well. She's now is the candidate for the first class students for this year. And at the same time, she was also the president of the student society in this college. So we can see, we can now develop all these things in order to upgrade their ability, their confidence in being a teacher later on. In order to inculcate this Naturegogy element, we have these techniques, and also we have this approach, all right, and we are sharing them with them, sharing all this technique with them during their micro teaching, during their macro teaching, and also during their school teaching practicum or school teaching practice. Yeah. So in order to do all these things, we need to have a lot of support from the lecturers and also from the school administration as well. So at the same time, we also have this teaching school program whereby we encourage the students to be in school in order to upgrade and also inculcate and also implement this Naturegogy. All right, that would be the first initiative. And then the second initiative would be on in-service teachers. We do not only focus on pre-service teachers, our students, we also focus on in-service teachers, whereby in order to implement these Naturegogy elements, we provide courses for teachers. All right, for example, we have this early intervention class, and also we have this indigenous curriculum training for teachers, meaning to say teachers in school, be it the indigenous teachers or the normal teachers, meaning to say they will have to be exposed to the culture, to the teaching of Naturegogy, and so on and so forth, in order to be in the school. All right, and we work together, closely together with the State Education Department in Perak and also in Pahang, in order to help and also train teachers, all right, in inculcating these Naturegogy elements. Okay, then at the same time, we also focus on the community, whereby in community, we don't only focus on these children, we also focus on their parents, because for us, we would like to make sure that the parent also knows and also be aware of the importance of education, right, in at the moment. Yeah. For example, we also have this healthcare and also hygiene activities for the parents and also for the indigenous, whereby we will go to the, we went to the community, indigenous community settlement, and then we help them and we train them, and we also show them how to take care of their health, right? And we take them to their natural environment in order to make sure that they know, right? They know that they have to be healthy as well. Right. At the same time, we also have a program for the children, right, whereby we have this series of motivational and also awareness courses, whereby in that particular courses, we include the elements of Naturegogy. Right, so this is the platform for us, the best platform for us to make sure that the students are aware of this importance of education, as well as they know what should be what we are targeting for them, what will be our expectation for them. All right. At the same time, we also think of the career path induction, whereby we look into the awareness of the what we call this, the communities, right, especially the youngsters, in order for them to have education. At the same time, they will know what they will go later on, what will they face later on. Meaning to say, what will be their career path. And for us, we focus on teaching, whereby we will encourage them to become teachers. All right, and when, you know, in order for them to become teachers, they need to upgrade themselves. They need to be aware of the importance of education. They need to be in school. They need to learn. They need to score, and then later on they will be in college, right? Be in this college or be in universities, and later on, finally they'll become teachers, and then they will go back to their community in order to teach their community. All right. We are not trying to say that we are trying to run away from our responsibility of teaching their community, but at the same time, we believe that by having this Naturegogy, by having this their own people to teach their community, they will be even better, right? If we were to do it that way. At the same time, we also have these courses, language courses, basic indigenous language courses, whereby we talk about the basic instructional language, right? That the teachers can use. All right, the Malays we can do, or the Malaysian we can use in order to teach the students in the indigenous school. For example, we know how to ask them to sit, ask them to stand, and so on and so forth. And these are all the basic instructional language that need to be mastered by teachers in school in order to attract the students and in order to make the students understand what are we teaching them. So the elements of Naturegogy is there in terms of we learning their language in context, and also we try to use the language to teach them. So in other words, this is actually encouraging them
Dr.
to also learn. Yeah.
Dr. Isham, sorry to interrupt. If you can expedite a bit your sharing.
Yeah, I'm having okay. Later on, I share you the video, right? And then at the same time, we also have this appreciation and also preservation of indigenous culture in terms of how we use their folk tales and also their stories, right? Their folk tales in their community in order to use that in our classroom. So we go back to the nature itself again, right? And then we have the final initiative, which is actually the beyond curriculum, whereby we have researchers, we have studies in terms of the Naturegogy and also the elements of indigenous education, right? And we have also publication of research journal online, whereby we have these JERIs. And then at the same time, we also work with other partners and other university, local universities as well, in order to come up with research, right, in order to help them. Okay, and then apart from that, I think because of the time limit, right, I think I would like to conclude. But we would like to mention that this Naturegogy will be very much implemented in schools later on. All right, and it will receive a warm and also full support from MOE, especially from the agencies, as well as the other related authorities. All right, in order for us to make them aware of this importance of education, and as well as to teach them and also to upgrade the education, right, the indigenous education precisely. At the same time, we are willing to learn, to share, and also to contribute experience and also our expertise, and also our expectation to the RCE. All right, and we hope to work together later on. All right, and hopefully that will be the best platform for us to work together collaboratively. All right, I would like to leave all of you with a short video. All right, and I hope that you can watch the video. It is very short one. All right, so I think I need to stop here for a while.
Dr. Sham, can we play the video later together with Prof Wisb?
Okay, this right, sorry. Right, can I play the video just a little bit, just the time, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay.
All right. Yeah, sorry. Right, technical. All right. Is it? Let me share.
Shall we play it later?
This is the one. Sorry. Okay, this is the one. So these are the activities that we have done. These are our students, and these are the project that we have. All right, and hopefully that we will collaborate later on with IIUM as well, especially the RCE. So, okay, that will be the our project as well. So thank you very much. Sekian terima kasih, and hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sham. Thank you very much for sharing the experience and also highlighting the functions and what the center has been doing so far, which will be holding the signing later on after this. So if you can move to the next one, to the last speaker is Prof Jamal, which my understanding is that he will be sharing the at least 20 years of experience working with the indigenous people. So Prof Jamal, you have the floor. 20 years ago.
Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm going to take a very short time, Dr. Zainal. For your information, Dr. Zainal has been chasing me to talk about this experience that we had, but I'm not able to really deliver to him the full write-up or our experience that we have. So what I'm going to tell here today is what I'm going to share is my medical experience when I was posted in a rural area in Pahang, in Jerantut, that I'm covering two districts, two area, Kuala Tembeling and Ulu Tembeling. So my slide just a group, just a few photos only. So I name my experience as what the orang Asli have taught me. So this is the photo of my medical team, rural health team, that we go along the river. So this was something like in 96, many years ago. So this is actually in Kuala Tembeling. Kuala Tembeling is a small town further up Jerantut, and what normally I travel every week, I would say, to various posts and various villages, traditional villages along the river of Tembeling. So this is Tembeling River. And then Tembeling River will combine with the Jelai River to form Sungai Pahang, the Pahang River. So from the river, those days we don't have any land transport. So we will take a boat from Kuala Tembeling, and then we will travel up to Kuala Tahan. This is around 2-3 hours, another 2-3 hours to Kampung Bantal, this area. So along the way, there are many orang Asli settlement. Nowadays, sometimes they call it orang asal. I'm not really sure which one is correct. So, for example, like lower down here, I have two orang Asli village, and even their village is always keep on changing. Kuala Atuk, Sungai Yung also have Sungai, I can't remember the name here, where they have elephantiasis cases. We have to go in. This is another 2 hours by boat to this particular area, and then this area is now still here. Is the post Kuching, is quite established. And then this is where the traditional Malay village is. So when I presented this case in 1986 to Ministry of Health, they don't believe that we have a Malay traditional village even further up from orang Asli village. We have this village because historically Mat Kilau ran away from the British. So this is where he settled down. Even we have we call it small istana for the Sultan during those days. So this is my team normally. So these are the staff nurses. So we normally it's quite common for us to push the boat when we want to reach these places. And this is Sungai Kuching. This is the established post. We call it post for the Orang Asli in Sungai Kuching, and many people know about this area. So even today, we still bring our students to visit and to experience the life of Orang Asli in this particular area. Maybe later, Prof Tan Sri Rector would like to visit the area as well. We can bring to this area. And even though they have these houses housing the Orang Asli, but bear in mind they are still using their nomadic life. So sometimes if you go in, you might not see the men inside in the village, because most of them may go out and seek for egawut or gaharu. And I remember one day I asked the Tok Batin, I said, how much do you earn when every time you go in? Normally they go in for 2 weeks, and when they come back, they say, oh, I'm one of the survey, actually, one of the questionnaire I asked how much they earn. So they said 15,000 ringgit. My God, I said, your salary is more than me, 15,000, but actually 15,000 for the whole lot, for the 2 weeks work for the whole village actually. So if they divide among themselves, they don't really get that much. So this is the post Kuching. And this is normally how I did last time in 95 when I went to their houses and do the usual antenatal checkup. So we do have the good system, health system to cover Orang Asli. But bear in mind, this is among in post Kuching where they have quite a good housing project. I mean the house compared to nomadic life. Later I show another picture. So normally I will go in and we do have the card. We do have some problems during those days. They may have all the checkups, everything, but when the times come for them to be delivered, they will disappear. They prefer to be delivered in the jungle. Normally, if here the best treatment is for not for them to be delivered in post Kuching, but to be delivered in hospitals. They don't want to go to hospital. So that's the problem that we have. I will tell you later. This is how we give the antihematinics. Deworming. Normally, we can give it in the form of a cup, but we got problems. Sometimes we leave a certain dosage, and we got very scary incidents where they are overdosed with the drug. So we make sure that this is how we deliver the dewormings. This is what I meant just now by their typical nomadic style village. This is what difficult for us to deliver the healthcare, because obviously if you look here, hygiene is one of the things that a problem here. For example, like Tina Umrikata, for example, the Tina is a problem that no matter what kind of drugs we give, we are not able to change their hygiene status, because they live in such condition. I will tell you later what I mean by that. So this is what we do for if they are living in the nomadic life. So we will visit the area. So we do have the card. You can see here the card. So we do have the card. We do have follow up, and then some of them might not have even their IC, but we do ask them, and we hope that they are showing the same kit. So this is another problem that we have. So we try to monitor the weight. So this is how we weight them, the babies, and then we give certain vaccinations. And trust me, we don't have any problem giving vaccination to Orang Asli. If they come, we offer, rarely we receive rejection. That's how they accept modern medicine. I will tell you later why. And this is how we deliver the drugs, and the men may come and ask for some paracetamol and certain anti-cough mixture, things like that. All right. So this is one of the time when we went to an area in, I can't remember, Kuala Atuk, Sungayong. I remember we traveled 2 hours by boat. We reached the area. There is none inside the area. Nobody, even their dog, was not around during that time. And then we wonder why. We waited for a few hours, and then a few minutes, up to 1 hour. I went into the area. I can't see anyone. We can't see anybody. We cannot meet anyone. Nothing, none. And their house simply empty. I mean, their shade just now. So we went again the next month. Still nobody there. And then we got the news that everybody went out from their house because there's one death. So that's their belief that they must leave the area that there's a death for a few months, I believe. So we do not know where they come back. So we only, once we got the news they are come back, then we go back to those particular area. So this is the setup of our clinic during those days. So now, I just want to conclude everything. My presentation is very short. one very important thing when we would like to help them, we must earn their trust. When we go there, we want to tell them that we have no other intention. You must know that this Orang Asli has been exploited. People use Orang Asli for many things, for lands, for political reasons, so many things. But for health, alhamdulillah, during my time, they accept our presence. There is no problem at all for us to do any intervention with Orang Asli. Of course, not 100%, but alhamdulillah, they trust the health team during that time. So earn the trust is very important for you to engage Orang Asli. Second, the health need. In public health, we have this concept of then you must know what you need, the need assessment. So for Orang Asli, during my experience with them for a few years, whatever we want, they also want the same thing. They want they have healthy babies, healthy lifestyle. They also want the same thing. Whether they are able to mention it, that would be different thing. But I believe what we perceive as healthy, they also want to be healthy. So the same thing. However, the problem that they have is different than us. We have a problem of obesity. For them, they have the problem of nutritional problems. Many of them may suffer from not enough food rather than excessive food like what we are having now. Having said so, when I mentioned look after their pregnant women, they have a very good hemoglobin level. Their hemoglobin is around 14, 15. They are female, the pregnant women, even up to 30 weeks pregnancy. So this is compared to our Malay, which is around 11, 10. So I would say that somehow their nutrition somehow maybe during pregnancy is better than us. So we have to learn something, maybe like Dr. Affendi is trying to learn about Malay scripture, or we can also learn what they take, for example. And number three, I believe, just like all the few speakers mentioned about education, I think everything rooted to opportunity for education. They need education. However, number four, what kind of education actually we would like to tell them? Are we asking them to learn like we are learning for what we want? So, and then the way we believe that they achieve good education if they got 11A1, for example, 11A+, is that what we want from them? So how? So do we want to train them to change, to become like us? So what? So I do not know. I do not know the answer, actually. For example, last time in medicine health service in Kampung Bantal, during our time, we have to go there every month to give healthcare to these people. So we realized that if we train someone local to become a doctor, to become a nurse, they will stay there. No. Once they experience the lifestyle outside their environment, they don't want to go back to their environment. So is it successful? I do not know. So those are the things that I believe we should try and figure it out. I also do not know the answer. Having said so, for all the experience that we had, I did not know that URA during those days or use the story that I created in the website for their teaching. When I joined URA, then I realized that they use my schedule to send the students in URA in 1995-96. So actually what we are now having is a 1 week to 6 weeks posting for rural health. We do not only go to visit Orang Asli as well as the Malay traditional area in rural area. What we observe especially is their health seeking behavior, because we are training the doctors. So the doctors, when they become doctors later they know that different people have different expectations, different lifestyle. So we learn the experiential learning. They have to be in the community to learn the behavior. So they will look at their living condition, and then they know that people have different circumstances, so that before you give, if you are a doctor, you want to give treatment, you must know that people is different. So you may not be able to treat everybody the same. And of course, when we send the student there, we also want to learn from Ministry of Health, how Ministry of Health deliver the health services. So I think that's all I would like to share with everyone. I'm open for any question if you have. That's all, Dr. Zainal.
Thank you very much, Prof. That's very interesting stories that you've been sharing with us, and that 4 lessons is very critical for us to keep on engaging with the indigenous people very nicely and comfortably. All right, thank you everyone. Thank you all to the speakers. We know, I know that there's people who like to ask questions, and there are questions already in the chat box. But if you don't mind, we hold that Q&A and discussion sessions and show the video from Prof Wisb later on. So now we would like to go to the second part of the webinar. That is the signing ceremony of the COC, Certificate of Collaborations, in between Regional Center of Expertise on Education for Sustainable Development, Greater Gombak, where UIA is the host, and the, let me get correctly, the formal name of the center, National Center of Pedagogical Excellence for Indigenous, at the Teacher Training Institute, Tengku Ampuan Afzan, that is under the IPGM. So we have together with us an honor to have the Rector of UIA, Tan Sri Zul, and also Dr. Rosmini through video message. But we have her representative, Dr. Nash, who is the Deputy Rector, Research and Innovations. So with the presence of these two persons, we would like now to proceed with the signing ceremony. We would like first to invite Tan Sri Zul to sit at the center stage while we play on the video message from Dr. Rosmini, Director of IPGM.
Yeah, kita sign dulu on the
After this. Okay.
yeah.
Of Dr. Rosmini, the Director of the Institute of Teacher Training.
A very good day, Abid, to everyone. Alhamdulillah, I'm delighted that we could all be here today to share our thoughts and views on the development of education for us, the indigenous people, or better known as the Orang Asli in Malaysia. The Ministry of Education Malaysia strongly supports the notion of education for all and no child is left behind policy, which says equal opportunity is given to all children, irrespective of racial differences, social status, and geographical settings. Orang Asli is one of the groups that the ministry has worked with and for so many years. At the Institute of Teacher Education Malaysia, or IPGM, we believe that the education is the key mechanism in the effort to improve the quality of life amongst the Orang Asli. Through education, the Orang Asli are exposed to the mainstream culture, to communities other than their own, to learn about things beyond their villages, which can have a positive impact on their lives, both in the present and the future. In IPGM, we are constantly finding ways to develop effective teacher education programs to train pre-service and in-service teachers. This includes the Orang Asli students who are trained to be teachers and serve their community in the long run. Currently, through the initiatives and activities carried out by Pusat Kecemerlangan Pedagogy Pribumi Kebangsaan, or in English, the National Center of Excellence for Indigenous Pedagogy, or NCEIP, which is located in IPG campus Tengku Ampuan Afzan, Kuala Lumpur, Pahang. We have developed teacher education programs, especially for the Orang Asli children and community, through the development of teacher training modules and curriculum relevant to the context of Orang Asli, giving them access to quality education and making education more relevant to their world. These teacher education programs give teachers the exposure to understand the socio-cultural nature and language of the Orang Asli and the communities. This indigenous pedagogy, Rimba-gogi, and or even forest-gogi is an important element in teacher training programs for Orang Asli in Malaysia. I believe these were explained just now by the presenters chosen from IPG campus Tengku Ampuan Afzan and IPG campus Temenggong Ibrahim on their research project and efforts pertaining to the education for the Orang Asli. In addition, they also plan and implement education programs such as student community service and foster family, which emphasize on involvement and integration between the Orang Asli community and other communities. The center is the focal point of reference for indigenous pedagogy, curriculum development and research. The National Center of Excellence for Indigenous Pedagogy is a one-of-its-kind center in the world. It's house and exhibition of rare Orang Asli artifacts found in Malaysia. The center is filled with information about the Orang Asli community. It is a place where scholars around the world put together and share information and knowledge about the indigenous people with each other. Now, with the collaboration between NCEIP and Regional Center of Expertise of Education for Sustainable Development Greater Gombak or RCE, we can do more. Working together is a wise move at this time, as this will provide opportunities for both parties to support indigenous education, particularly for teacher development, research and designing curriculum that are relevant to the indigenous people. IPGM is very honored and looking forward to be working with scholars from the RCE, International Islamic University Malaysia or IIUM, in a strategic collaboration in developing education for indigenous people. And thus, we hope that the MOU between IPGM and UIAM signed in 2019 could be further enhanced by the signing of this COC today. With that note, thank you.
Thank you, the Rector, for the very strong support statement from the IPGM for the center to functions to its highest best of achievement and delivery. Next, let's listen to the Rector of International Islamic University, Tan Sri Zul, for his remarks. Tan Sri, please.
Thank you, Zainal. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Greeting of peace to everybody, particularly Dr. Rusini, Rector of IPGM, Professor Hopkins, Ms. Catherine, speakers, fellow participants, brothers and sisters. Let me first of all thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you on this very auspicious occasion that marks a kind of a milestone as far as this university is concerned. For a long time, I think this university is situated very close to an indigenous population, and also they've been working quite lengthy with them. But this time, I think we have found a different vision ahead by working with a very well-established Center of Pedagogy at the Tengku Afzal, Tengku Afzal Center. And we are indeed very glad to partner with them, because there's a lot more to be learned from them, given their experience, given their place and context where they are working today. So I am indeed very delighted that they are accepting the invitation for us to work together. And certainly with partners like UNESCO Chair on the reorienting of education will make this partnership even a greater sort of effort to bring indigenous education to the level where it should be, not only nationally, but also internationally. The little experience that we've got, it's just not that we just teaching them something, but I think we need to learn a lot more from them. The experience that Dr. Jamalludin or Prof Jamalludin was telling us, in fact, there's a lot more that we can learn from them, something that we've forgotten, something that we think is not relevant. But under the COVID environment, suddenly we found that many of the things that have been adopted under the indigenous wisdom is something that we need to come back to very quickly. And therefore, this signing ceremony is very timely. And I'm indeed very grateful to all parties that have made this possible. I also just want to mention that our constitutional head, who is also the Queen of Malaysia, is very interested in this project. But unfortunately, because of the condition that we are in today, we are not able to invite her to visit physically the center. But inshallah, as things improve towards the end of the year, hopefully, we will certainly make this visit and make this collaboration more meaningful from among of us. So I would like to end by encouraging all of us to work together. I think there's much to be learned. There's a lot to catch up given the presentation that we've got today. There's certainly a lot of materials that we need to assemble to bring it to the mainstream. And this university indeed is very anxious to learn from what the indigenous population has to offer, so that we become very much aware under the new initiative to redefine education, as it were, under the initiative of UNESCO Futures of Education. These are places and room for us to actually work together in tandem, so that we can bring new meaning and new understanding of what education is all about. So on that note, I wish you luck, and I hope this collaboration that we strike today will go a long way, not only within us in Malaysia, but regionally and of course internationally at the same time. On that note, thank you very much, and I wish you well, and hopefully this partnership will be realized as soon as possible, hopefully in person. I know Charles and Catherine has going to get their vaccination soon, and I hope they can come and visit us at the moment that is over. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Walaikum salam. Thank you very much, Tan Sri, for the remarks and for all the kind words in order to encourage us to work as much as we can towards propelling this center, these collaborations towards mainstreaming the indigenous knowledge and local wisdoms. For knowledge of the others, we also have joining with us another RCE, Regional Center of Expertise, joining to YouTube from RCE Lima Kalau, that is Peru. We've got RCE Otago, RCE Waikato, and RCE Yogyakarta. Yeah, these are the people who are interested in indigenous knowledge. To end the session, to end the signing ceremony, we would like to share with you all the kind of the works behind the collaborations and the existing work that both parties has been working on for all this while, with a short presentation montage, and ultimately conclude with a certificate of collaboration signing ceremony. So let's enjoy the video. Alhamdulillah, thank you very much to everyone who's joined the session. So inshallah, this is a very interesting milestone for us to mainstream this indigenous knowledge and mainstream indigenous knowledge, local wisdoms, especially working education for the indigenous people. With that remarks, we hope that everyone will continue to support these activities, and we hope that we have highlighted a lot of good practice, good policies, good support environment for us to move on with this agenda. With that remark, we would like to thank everyone, especially Tan Sri Zul, Dr. Rasmini, Dr. Nash, and the IPGM team, and of course the management team from UIA, and those teachers, those belong to IPGM joining the sessions, and the RCEs around the world that join us, regardless of their timing zone there. Sorry? Oh, okay. And we also have orang Asli, indigenous people joining us as well. So sometimes people say that we talk about orang Asli, they don't join us, but we do have them in the group. So alhamdulillah. So thank you so much. For those who would like to continue the Q&A session, please stick around. But for this session, this is where we end, and we hope to see you in person, everyone. Inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good night to Charles and the others. And thank you, Prof Wisb as well. Okay, so now I would like to check if the speakers are still around. Prof Charles and Catherine and Prof Wisb. Prof Wisb, if you would like to play your video, maybe that's a good start for us to go back to the discussions mode. Okay, all right.
I'll try if I can turn it on.
All right, so while you were working on that, I would like to invite anyone on the screen, if you have any questions, to ask in person. We do have questions on the chat box as well. Anyone would like to ask questions at the moment while Prof Wisb are working on the video?
Mudhumita.
Yeah, Prof Wisb, I think who's okay, if not, then maybe Prof Charles, if I may start with you, if you can give some comments based on all the presentation that have been shared with us, Prof Charles.
Well, first of all, just thank you for. Am I coming through? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for including me in this. I really enjoyed the presentations. It was a nice blend, especially with the experience, you know, and the reality. We often talk kind of broadly of what should be done, but to hear from people of programs that really are going on, I thought it was great.
Okay, Charles, thank you so much for that remarks, telling us that we are all together in this mainstreaming effort. Any of the speakers would like to respond anything based on the presentations?
Okay, can I ask a question to Prof Jamal? Prof Jamal, I think healthcare, given the COVID environment, now becomes one of the top experience that we want to bring across. Now, from your experience, I wonder whether this whole idea of working with the indigenous people, indeed, I think not only the indigenous people, also the rural population, to start developing this concept of sustainable health, rather than going on a piecemeal the way we have done it. Idea of a sustainable health basically is nothing new. We're going back to basic healthcare, sanitation, cleanliness, getting these facilities ready. I remember when we talked about cholera at one time, we are able to manage cholera just by reorganizing knowledge and society and then get there's no vaccination also until now, if I'm not mistaken, because this whole idea of the pandemic teaches a lot of things, that we need to depart from the old ways of doing things, and sustainable health probably be a new kind of a concept that we can start to implement when we work with this group of people. What is your comment on this one?
Tan Sri, my first for me, when through my experience, especially with the rural health rural health program, as whether it is the Orang Asli or the rural Malay traditional people, for me the struggle and the challenge is to get the insight that they need those health, they need those things. If they don't have that insight in their mind, in their culture, in their family, they don't want it. So it's very difficult. You keep on forcing them to change, For them, those things is not really important for them. When we look at, for example, at the skin, they have this tinea, very horrible infection. When we look at it, we can feel the itchiness in our body, but for them it's okay. They can live with that. Example like malaria, when we take the blood for usual people, if you have a thick smear film, 1+, you can see the malaria for 1+, a lot already. You cannot stand up. But for Orang Asli, they got 3+, so many plasmodium inside. They can still walk. So the definition of the health, what they need and what we need might not be similar. So I think, Prof, the first thing is the insight. We must make sure that we know what they want, and whatever that they want should be the thing that is correct for them. So we have to balance this. Sometimes what they want may not be the best for them, but that's what we feel. So to strike this balance, I find it's very difficult, Prof. So if I would like to mention as one word to build this insight among them. But my worry is that this insight is what we feel or what they want. So this is the balance that I do not know, Prof.
Yeah. But I think this is exactly why I asked the question, because we know of our case here that the Orang Asli even died out of paracetamol because their body is not meant for paracetamol. So we thought that this is the first natural sort of treatment for them if they got fever, but for them they cannot accommodate. So that the whole idea of sustainable health is trying to understand this and to really create the balance that you talk about, that we cannot assume that their system and our system is the same. Their system and our system may be different because we have been exposed to different kind of treatment and different kind of drugs and stuff like that. So where do you put this in our education system, as it were, that we don't assume that everybody works on the same one-size-fits-all, as it were? And this is the problem when we work with the traditional people. We thought our solution is their solution, and I don't think this is the case.
I agree, Prof. I completely agree. Yeah, when we just now even I mentioned about my own experience with regard to malaria, you can see that the level of biological level also different. So it's something that perhaps we should study. And I mentioned just now, I was so impressed with their level of hemoglobin for pregnant women. When we have problems to maintain certain hemoglobin level for pregnant women so that they are prepared for pregnancy, for them, their hemoglobin is already high during 30 weeks pregnancy. So why? So I think there's so many questions that we can go in and try to study. And for your information, Prof, we did try last time to study Orang Asli, but the problem again is they are very mobile. When you go in for the first time, you can meet them the second time. So this is a thing that I think we have to build up the mechanism as well to sustain the research or to sustain the whole project of to know each other better.
Okay, thank you.
Any response from the speakers reflecting upon this getting insights? Charles, please.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. The research that we were doing is not because we have real expertise with Indigenous, but we have expertise in education for sustainable development. And we found in our research that those schools in the North and West who were really scoring well when we introduced the concept of basing the curriculum, delivering the curriculum by addressing their local sustainability issues. That is, their social issues, environmental issues, economic issues, and so on. Even those schools that were performing very, very well were enhanced. So we thought, could we introduce the idea of basing the curriculum for the least well-served people in the world, being the indigenous, could that sort of help and be a way of addressing the curriculum? So what are their social issues? What are their health issues? What are their nutrition issues? Employability, their economic issues, and so on. And by addressing those things, we can deliver language and mathematics and skills and so on, but it's in a context that seems to make sense for them. And the first things that we are getting back really show that it seems to be working. We also found that the four aspects of earning trust, serving their health needs, serving their learning and their skills need, you know, the education needs, and but questioning the definition of what education. That totally aligns with what we're finding. All around the world, the indigenous people have been abused, and the trust is just not there, and for very good reason.
Thank you, Charles. If you may get some input from those who are running the curriculums, Dr. Bahiyah, Dr. Ishams, Prof Wisb.
Charles, just to respond, I mean, spontaneously to your issue, I think my concern is basically education in the modern times are all about passing exams, particularly in this part of the world. You know, it is not about sustainability, it is not about well-being, it is not even about survival to a certain extent. So when we go into the indigenous population, I would like to, I stand corrected from the colleagues who have been working with them. Our purpose is to make them understand and pass an exam and get a certificate and then move on from there. I don't know whether that should be the ultimate idea of what this education for indigenous people is. I think when we talk about reorienting, Charles, I think part of your chair, I don't know whether this is a kind of reorientation that we need to force it onto them. I remember when we worked with the first school that we took with an indigenous population in Johor, the absenteeism was 80%. And the reason why they don't want to come to school is basically this. They don't want to be sitting in front of a teacher in a theater style and listening to somebody talking for the next 2 hours or 3 hours, because that's not education for them. Education for them is to climb trees and discover what is it is around them that they can use for their own, living styles and stuff like that. So there seems to be a kind of a mismatch when we talk about this curriculum thing. The modern curriculum and the indigenous curriculum may not have the same understanding. I'm not too sure whether this is a right assumption. Maybe people in IPGM can have to clarify this.
Yeah.
Bahiyah, am I making sense?
Assalamualaikum.
Yes. All right. Yeah. Okay. Assalamualaikum.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, Bahiyah, if you may speak.
Okay. All right. Okay, okay. About these issues, Prof, what can I share to all of the audience and the panels here? All right. Of course, we as okay. For me, if I act as a teacher, all right. IPGM already provide all the teacher trainee, all right, with all the all the knowledge that they need to know as a teacher, right? And once they bring posting to the school, they need to implement it. But yet, this is when the challenge occur. All right, we cannot assume that the method of teaching in the uh, 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 for the school at town is the same with the school at indigenous at indigenous it's the same between the pupil at mainstream and the pupils at indigenous school, because they have different culture and their lifestyle is different. So we really need a different approach. For me, it's just like a doctor. Okay, we found the disease and we need to diagnose it first, and after that we can use the right medicine to cure the disease. So if the indigenous people facing the dropout issue, so this is because they are having indigenous people, they are very have a low esteem. They are very low esteem and very shy, very shy. So this should that the teacher need to attach well with these indigenous people. And for me, by introducing the pedagogy that related with that can attach them well with the forest, okay, is a good approach, because they live in the forest and they will see the forest as their lab, their classroom, and everything with it. So by giving them the right approach, for me, we can help them to be a better in education, inshallah.
Thank you, Dr. Bahiyah.
Assalamualaikum. May I say something then?
Yes, please, Dr. Syam.
All right. I would like to focus on two things, which is actually the one that mentioned by Prof Jamal and also from Charles as well just now. The first thing that we think is important for us to do is actually to build the trust and also the confidence. Meaning to say, we as the outsider, we need to build the trust when we go to the to get the info and also to teach this indigenous community. For example, we need to learn their language. We need to also respect their culture, their belief, right? And in order to do so, we need to be able to learn all these things. And for example, like what we have done is we always bring in the indigenous students, right, together with us in order to them and be in their community. That would be one of the things that we can do, meaning to say we bring along and we be together with them. That's what we to build in the trust and so the confidence. And then talking about the curriculum just now, the MOE, we have this KAP curriculum, or we call it as the curriculum Asli Penan, or basic curriculum for the indigenous people or indigenous community. And in that particular curriculum, it is actually the basic skills and also informations, and also the basic knowledge of few subjects. The one that I can mention is just something on English, maths, and then literacy. And then we also have computer skills in that curriculum, as well as entrepreneurship. So meaning to say, the students in this particular curriculum, they are exposed to basic skill. What are the basic need and also basic things that they need to know, they need to learn in order to be in line with this community, the mainstream. All right. So we have this. I mean, in Malaysia we have this curriculum, and it has been implemented. But at the same time, there will be pros and cons. All right. For example, like certain the tribe leaders, when we have a meeting and when we have a discussion, certain tribe leaders also mentioned that this is actually too minimal for them. I mean to say it is too minimum for their children. So they would like to have a better one. I mean to say they like to compete with the mainstream, the national curriculum. So in a way, they are trying to run away from this curriculum, and they would like to join in the normal curriculum, I mean the national curriculum. So that is a pro and cons in that. But for us, we believe that by implementing basic curriculum or this competition national curriculum, that's the thing that I can mention at the moment.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham. Before I move on to Prof Wisb with video and specific questions to you, Dr. Affendi, do you have any insights to share?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Zainal. Actually, when I reconsider the theme of our conference, which is about mainstreaming local knowledge, indigenous wisdom, etc., I wonder if because I have the same problem here. I mean, maybe the rest of you define indigenous referring to the orang asli. I find that the Malay themselves is an indigenous group, and it should not be sidelined when we talk about indigeneity. What I see the problem when I do medical text research, etc., is that the problem with the Malays is that they are losing their indigenous knowledge, because what is called mainstream education, etc., has sidelined all this indigenous knowledge. With what is being done at the KPT, Minister of Education, for example, what I feel is that the move that has been done so far is about mainstreaming non-indigenous knowledge rather than mainstreaming their knowledge. What I mean is that our definition of what is development and knowledge is the westernized one, is the modernized one. It's not the indigenous one. Yeah, and the indigenous one is being like things on the sides, on the periphery, to beautify the whole curriculum, but not really about. I mean, we mentioned a few times that one of the problems, one of the challenges, with educating, so to speak, the indigenous society is because they don't find the context of learning ABCs, learning 1, 2, 3 in their forest environment. So perhaps there should be a curriculum that is tailored to them, not teaching ABCs or 1, 2, 3 like modern society, but teaching them in the codified way about their plants, etc. I do not know. I mean, this is what I'm finding as a challenge when I do the medical text study, which is reteaching, relearning about the Malay culture of healing, Malay culture of food, even, because we are losing without realizing that we are no longer in touch with our nature. If we walk on the street, along the pathway, we don't know even the names of the plants and the trees, and what's more, their uses. We think that I might be a professor or I'm a lecturer at university, but actually I'm totally useless if I'm being put on the street. I'm not street smart at all because I do not know the nature around me. So that is my feeling.
Dr. Fanny, there's a very strong concern that I guess everyone has the same, especially I think that Rizzo would have responded to that. But maybe we'd like to hear from Prof Wisb. Based on this, and also if you would like to share the video, and also response to the issue that we talked about just now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I try to get the video on, let me, I agree with some of the points of view which have recently been expressed. the issue which comes from us, from our side, you know, of course, our situation in Andaman is slightly different from Malaysia, or we were not at the point in history where Malaysia is today with Orang Asli and the nation and its politics. But, you know, there's this issue that the government expects that by teaching you a language of command, you know, whereby the indigenous people have to learn English or Hindi so they can follow a command of the state or somebody who is an officer or a forest officer, says somebody. But they never want to find out from the Orang Asli and Andamans whether the indigenous population composes a poetry. How do they write about, how do they think about something which has happened in the past? Do they write something about the history? Do they think about history? You know, these are our categories of thoughts. But if thinking is common, whether it's the indigenous person or a person living in an industrial society, those categories of thought also should be questioned. And therefore, we have attempted now, we are trying to create this consciousness that the mainstream curriculum should have something taken from the forest curriculum. So what you people have discussed as Forestegogy should become part also of the kids who are in the urban areas, you know, who never see anything but concrete forest. Yet forest has something to teach. So I think this idea that forest also thinks, and the people in the forest think about that forest, and therefore people in the city should think about the forest and the city, would make the environmental awareness or this kind of sustainability of where we exist on this planet a little more challenging issue and much more holistic in its perspective. I think that's one of the things we need to learn rather than thinking only about how to go and teach in an indigenous community. That's one thing I wanted to say about that, and I'll try to attempt getting the video on.
Yes, please.
To get out of it and get in again.
So we get Tan's response on the issue just now.
Yeah, good.
I think I can't get it on, so let's go with the flow of the discussion.
It's very unfortunate. We love to see what's happening there in the Andaman Island, apart from the beautiful island that you have there. I'm not sure whether there is anyone who would like to ask in person verbally. If not, maybe we'd love to extend discussions more and deeper. I think it's just get heated up, but I guess if you can get Tan Sri Zul, Prof Zul to somehow wrap and give some way forward kind of remarks for us to move on. Please,
yeah, as far as our RCE is concerned, Greater Gombak, I think we find that the indigenous knowledge certainly is timely, but how do you define it, how do you actually conceptualize it, is some of the issues that we have discussed today. And I think it's time for us to rethink. For example, when we look at the definition of sustainable development that talks about the present and the future, we need to ask where is the past, because half of the thing that Affendi was trying to address was the past. You know, and in that definition, the past is not very clear. And if you look at some of the past history, at least in this part of the world, sustainable development has been there for a long time. And therefore, the word indigenous, the word traditional, the word heritage has its own meaning when you look at the past. And those are the things I think that we need to sort out. And I quite agree with what Vishwa is thinking. We are not there to teach them. We need to learn from them. I think the few months that we had interaction with our own indigenous population, find there's many things that they have done that we are not aware of. You know, a very simple example that still stick in my mind. For example, when they cook rice, when they steam rice, for example, that rice can last for 3 days. And because the way they cooked it, the way the kind of leaves that they use, and then they can use this rice to travel over 2 or 3 days without it going, rendered unedible or whatever. But for our case, when we cook rice overnight, then the rice already spoiled. So these are new things that we need to learn from them. How do they sustain it, and how we have lost it? And I remember another experience we had when we were in the Amazon. I remember talking to one practitioner, and it was humid, and I made just a casual comment, and I say, today is quite humid. And his response was very, very casual, and he said, "Let me call the wind." And I don't know whether I'm seeing things, but within a few minutes, you feel the draft coming in. You see the leaves moving, as though there's a wind coming. So these are. I don't know whether this is new knowledge, but certainly when I asked him, "Where do you get this from?" he said, "This comes from from generations ago, how we were taught to build a relationship with our environment, and have a kind of a communication with the environment." So these are things that we need to relook again. And then also another experience I had in New Zealand, when somebody saw 5 dolphins in the sea, and just mentioned to me, "I'm going to call the 3rd dolphin." And lo and behold, the 3rd dolphin just swam in front of him and then moved off. Is this what? Is this a mystery, or is it a scientific explanation? These are the indigenous knowledge that I thought we need to get in hold of and find out where is it within our midst that we have missed this. And I think we need to look at this in a very holistic sense, so that indigenous knowledge is not just a fancy word, because we run out of ideas, and therefore we need to find something new to do. I think that's a whole basis of why we want to do this. And I hope this partnership, with the help of friends internationally, will help us to crystallize this a little bit more with the kind of work that we are trying to do in Malaysia, inshallah. So I have great hopes and a lot of excitement that this collaboration now between the pedagogy, everybody has got a gogi at the end, Rimba gogi, and I thought we should have also a sejahtera gogi at the end of the day. Maybe this is another way of moving forward, inshallah. But I would like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank Charles and Catherine particularly. I think they are the mover of this indigenous thing. Otherwise, we are not even into this. Hopefully, this will be some new addition in trying to understand what sustainable development beyond just we know of the 17 goals, and maybe there's something else that we need to also investigate. So thank you very much, and I hope you will stay safe. We certainly want to meet you in person. Hopefully this can be done as soon as possible. All right. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tan Sri Zul. Finally, we'd like to thank those institutions that together with us, the IPGM represented by Dr. Nash. We have Puan Haji Abdullah, the Director of AFSAN, and the team there, and the Center of Indigenous Curriculums, and of course on our side from UIA, and the RC is around, and the speakers. Now we're so happy we got a chance to represent us in UNESCO and UN discussions, and we've got Prof Wisb to share more insights, and all the speakers. Thank you very much. Inshallah, we'll see you soon in person when times permit. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, very good, safe, well.